for joining the Barcliff Group's Fireside Chat. And this week we are talking about mental health, very important topic. In the midst of releasing this recording, there were many updates that came up, one of which some states electing to end self-quarantine and reopen. Georgia was actually one of those states. So we still wanted to give this information because one, mental health is still important and we believe is useful, but we did want to make sure that it was also timely and that we disseminated it to you all and let you know. So we just want you to tune in, enjoy, and we'll see you at the other side of Fireside Chat. Thanks for joining. Take care. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the Barcliff Group's Fireside Chat. My name is Sharonica Barcliff. I am the founder and CEO, and today is a very special day. We have one of my favorite guests is DeAna Vivian. She is a nationally certified licensed professional counselor. She is the owner and therapist at 180 Counseling Practice here in Atlanta. And above all, she is truly a gem to the community and just a pleasure to know and love. So welcome, Jo, to Fireside Chat today.
Thank you. I feel like I should do PayPal or something and send you some money for the intro.
Listen, Cash App is. Thank you. I just want to know. To be here. Thank you. And today we're covering a pretty heavy topic, and that's mental health during a pandemic. And, without a doubt, folks are really stressed right now. We're experiencing job loss of loved ones, a new normal in terms of how to live life. Things aren't comfortable, to say the least. And I wanted to have a very community-based, down-to-earth fireside chat about this because I know folks are struggling. Those who feel like they're doing well may still need some tips, and I felt this would be a great platform for us to discuss some of those things. So we'll lead off with everything going on, with stress, anxiety, depression, taking on what life is right now. Well, how do people deal with stress? What do we do? Or how does that form each person? Now, this is such a broad question.
It is. And as you were asking it, my brain was saying, I don't know. Everybody's different, right?
Exactly. Right.
And part of being a therapist is getting to know my client well enough to know exactly what they may need for the type of stress that they're dealing with. But when we're living in a pandemic, which I would say is a collective trauma, and we don't often hear that phraseology when we listen to the news, but it is a collective trauma. I think at this point, most of us can say that we either know someone or we know someone who knows someone that has died in this pandemic. Even if we don't know them, some way, somehow it feels personal.
Yeah.
This didn't just touch our community or our city or our state or region or even our country. It has touched the globe.
Right.
And so this is the first time in my generation, in my lifetime, that we have dealt with a collective pandemic, and it's different. And because it's different, the anxiety is a little bit different. Symptomology is the same, but cause is different. And so what I have found are some basic things that have helped people maneuver these new waters. And there's not a one-size-fits-all. I like to be really clear about that. There are so many therapeutic approaches in the mental health field, and all of them have merit. And what I do is I pull out of all approaches what works best for my client. So I'm going to speak in generalities, and I encourage people, when you hear this, find what works for you. The first thing that I recommend for people to do is to keep routine. And funny enough, it's the first thing that everybody lets go of. People are happy to be at home. They don't have to hit that alarm. They don't have to snooze, get up when they want to, and stay in their fuzzies all day long. I cannot tell you how many pajamas I have seen while doing telemental health counseling. I'm waiting for the video to come up. It pops up, and I'm like, oh, wow, I've got Superman today, Cool. And I am not offended. I actually love it. It's fun. But what I'm also finding is because people are not keeping a particular routine, they begin to get more lethargic. They feel hopeless and helpless. They feel like they have no purpose. The walls start closing in on them. So the first thing I encourage is keep routine. No one says you still have to get up at 6 a.m. If you've just gained 2 hours from not having to drive, by golly, sleep 2 hours later. but still get up at the same time. Go ahead and groom yourself. You can put back on your Superman pajamas if you want, but groom yourself and have a discipline for the day. You know, if it's eating at the same time, I do my work at the same time. I spend this much time with my children. Whatever chores I need to do around the house, this is my time for rest and relaxation, and this is my time to go to bed. Whatever the routine is, have some form of routine, at least Monday through Friday, or whatever your work days are. The other thing I recommend is that you pay close attention to your physical body. We are used to moving more than we realize we are, and if we are in the house, we're more sedentary. So I encourage my clients, at least 20 minutes of getting your heart rate up. Get out, run, walk fast, if you have an elliptical or a treadmill in your home, most certainly do that. If you don't have that and you have stairs, they are a great substitution. Run your stairs, push-ups, sit-ups, anything that can get your heart rate up. Running in place even works. And this is what my oldest son is doing. Jump rope. It's a great cardio.
It is. So, and I like the stairs idea too. That was great as well.
Yeah, nobody likes the stairs though, Sharonica, but you.
I know. But look, they really told to get that heart rate up, you know, so
yeah.
Love-hate relationship.
Love-hate. Exactly. But I encourage some physical exercise. The reason why is when we're feeling anxious, most often what's happening is we're starting to function in our middle brain. And we get that fight-flight response going on. And so we want to bring our anxiety level down. One of the fastest ways to switch off that middle brain flight-fight feeling is to get your heart rate up. It tricks your body into believing that you either fought or you ran. And either way, it resets and you start feeling less anxious. And that's why I encourage exercise.
That's a great way that you put it. It's your body feeling, okay, fight or flight. I actually didn't have to fly, but I did this exercise to calm myself down to get that place of being level.
Yeah, get back to par or namaste, where you're not feeling like you're just so antsy. Watch what we're eating. You know, I know personally I have probably gained a couple of pounds and I'll go to the pantry and literally say, I am not hungry, but I want something to eat, right?
Listen, I need to quarantine from that refrigerator, okay?
Exactly. And so I recognize that I need to find something different to do, and I've done that. I've substituted other activities for the eating. Now, I don't deprive myself. I am eating probably a little bit more sugar than I would normally eat, but I'm still keeping my carbs in order. I'm watching the caffeine that I take in, and I'm trying not to eat my way through the pandemic.
Right.
And then the last thing I recommend people do, you know, we talked about body, that includes rest also. We talked about eating. But the last thing is be very aware of your spirituality. Yes. You know, practicing spirituality is powerful. All statistics and all research done on this shows that people who have a practice of faith fare better with mental illness, with stress, with depression, with any other circumstance of life. And so whatever your faith is, I encourage you to make sure you incorporate a practice of your faith on a daily basis.
Wow. That's very good. Very good. Would you have anything to add for first-line healthcare workers? Should they do the same routine, or with anything additional that you would add for those, since they're really in the thick of it? You know, they have a lot of visual and just involved in the environment that they're seeing daily.
I'm glad you asked that question. You know, I do have some first responders as clients. And first of all, I just want to thank them. And when I think of first responders, we all think people in the medical field. My understanding of that has expanded to any and everybody who is going to work right now to make sure that I can have the life that I live. I say thank you to them. They literally are putting their lives and sometimes their family members' lives on the line so that we can eat and sleep and drink and get our plumbing repaired and a variety of other things that we are doing. So I say thank you for them. But in particular, our people in the medical field, they truly are on the front line where they're face-to-face with people that we know are suffering from COVID. And that's hard every day to know that anything could happen to you. And what I have found is they go into battle mode, just like a soldier would, you know. They're in the midst of that thing and they're not thinking about their own well-being and safety. They really are focused on their client. It's when they get home and they're not with that patient that the day starts to take over. And so there's always that room to do all the things that I've already talked about. That's for anybody dealing with any form of anxiety. But in addition, it's important that our first responders remind themselves that they are valued, that they are needed, and no matter what happened that day, they did good work. Mm-hmm. It's really easy to come home and regret that you did not do something, or you couldn't help someone, or you had to send someone home or away because they weren't as severe as someone else may have been. You have people in cities and countries or states, that don't have, the resources to take more people in. I don't think Georgia has yet gotten to that place, but a lot of our states have. And when you have grown up in an environment as a medical professional where you've taken an oath to do no harm, it's hard to send somebody home. And so I always encourage them to remind themselves, you have done the absolute best that you could do, and you did good work that day. The second thing I encourage people on the front line to do is find something funny to zone in on every day. I don't know what makes them laugh. It might be stand-up comedy. It may be a sitcom. I don't know, whatever it is, reality TV. Find a good movie, anything that can make you laugh. Laughter does the heart good like medicine does the body good. And so I really encourage finding time to do that. And it's also important that you connect with other colleagues. Yes. And talk with your colleagues. Yeah, there is power in community. Quite often people feel like they're the only one going through something. But when you start talking with your colleagues, you find out they're dealing with some of the same issues. And then all of a sudden you come out of yourself and you're offering advice to someone else that you find you take for yourself. Right. So I encourage that. And then if nothing else works, find a mental health professional. As I stated in the beginning, I have several clients who are in the medical profession. And I think them talking with me on a regular recurring basis is a part of their ability to stay in the fight.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Joe. Those are wonderful. And I can say, there are oftentimes, not even being in the actual clinical setting, I replay the day in my mind. And mm-hmm. Okay, you can't change that. You can't go back and change that, even if with all my heart I wanted to. So that's a great point that you shared. They're like, listen, I've done the best I can. Let me enjoy this evening until I go back in, and to set my mind straight and to share and pair. Yeah. There are others that are undoubtedly going through it, and you build a trusted community by saying, hey, last night was rough for me. Yeah. I'm trying to get back on the right track in terms of how my mind and heart feels right now. Mm-hmm. Let me talk to a colleague or someone or a healthcare professional just to get back right. It's a lot to take in. So
it is a lot to take in, and they're doing this not for their normal shift in routine. Some people are pulling doubles. Yeah. Some people are staying close by so that if you need me in a snap, I'm there. Yeah. Doctors and nurses coming out of retirement to help out.
Seriously, and that's just a different playing field we're in right now. Mm-hmm. It really tells us where we are. With that, one of the communities that really has weighed heavy on my heart as states have enacted shelter in place are those who don't really have a shelter, Joe. Mm-hmm. And, those of us who are lucky enough, we are able to work from home. We have food to eat. Our loved ones are okay. But sometimes I find myself thinking about those who don't have that environment, that shelter. What about those? What about the homeless in our community? What can they do, or what does that look like for them, or what is your stance on that?
I'm glad you asked that question. They are the invisible and quite often the voiceless. Yes. And anytime there's a medical emergency or natural disaster, whatever the case may be, they get hit the hardest and quite often they get overlooked. Right. Our state, the state of Georgia, did something that I greatly appreciated. Our governor created a task force, and our mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, is the chairperson over the committee for the homeless. Yes. And so out of that, they have created a lot of stopgaps for them. They have galvanized the homeless community, those who are volunteers and those who provide shelters for them, to get some standards in place and what they can do for them. Money has been directed towards them. Let me be clear. We all know it's not enough money. $7 million was allocated as an emergency fund for COVID-19 for the city of Atlanta. And of that $7 million, $1 million was designated to the homeless. So what they're doing in the homeless community, first of all, is that we don't think about this, but where do they isolate?
Exactly.
Right? If they have it, where do they isolate? There is no isolation in most of the homeless shelters. Mm-hmm. So, one, if you are in a shelter, they are now getting tested at a higher rate than they were before. If you are tested, just in the beginning of April, they established a hospital from an old hotel. Now, the location of the hotel has not been released, but I think it's 170 beds. And so if they test positive, then they can isolate in the hotel. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Mercy Me is another organization that's really active in this. So they're going out to the camps and they're providing the homeless with hand sanitizer and hygiene kits so that they can increase their hand washing and sanitizing. Unlike us, they don't have running water.
Exactly.
Unless they're in a shelter. And then think about this, you find that a lot of women in particular, and those in the LGBTQ community, prefer not to go into shelters because of the abuse that they sometimes endure. So they're less likely to want to go into a shelter, which makes them even more vulnerable for COVID-19. So they're they're an underheard and underseen community that needs our help now more than ever. And although what the city is doing won't be enough, I don't think anything that's happening in our country is enough. Something is being done, and for that I'm grateful. Now let's kind of transition into the mental health side. There are a lot of reasons that people are homeless, but the one common denominator, or the common denominator that is of the highest percentage, is because of mental health issues. 46% of people who are homeless are suffering with some type of mental health issue, and of that percentage, 25% are dealing with severe mental health issues, such as schizophrenia. Yeah, that's a huge number.
46%?
46%
of that.
Major, yeah.
I just had to reiterate that because that's astounding to hear.
That's huge, yeah. So you're looking at people who are dealing with delusions or hallucinations. You're dealing with people who have severe mood swings, or dealing with a major depressive disorder where the desire or want to do anything just does not exist. You're dealing with people who have bouts with violence, or who are dealing with excessive drug use. So you're now in a situation where you're dealing with COVID. Well, what happens? If the people that will listen to this podcast have jobs, maybe working from home, have a shelter over their head, are dealing with anxiety, how much more are the people without a job, without health insurance, without running water or a bathroom to use, dealing with anxiety? And if their anxiety level goes up, like a lot of people do, they self-medicate. Self-medication means more alcohol and more drugs. Yes. It makes it then harder for you to get into a shelter. So it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
There's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we know our base needs, until those are met, nothing else matters. So when you start talking about the homeless population, until they have shelter and food and clothing, jobs, relationships, it's really hard to get to the mental health issues. Right. So the greatest thing we can do for anyone dealing with mental health issues is first meet their basic needs. And so I believe our efforts to get more people inside of shelters, getting them tested, getting them isolated if indeed they are positive, is the beginning of helping with their mental health. Nobody knows, what is the saying? I don't care how much you know. No, what is it? I'm going to get it right. I'm going to get this right. I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care.
Ooh, that was a gut punch.
Because if you don't care about me, I really don't want to hear about COVID or anything else. And I definitely don't want to hear about how I need to get on some meds so that you can help me with my mental disorder. Mm-hmm. So it starts with caring. Statistics and research show that to help someone who is homeless dealing with mental health disorder, they need consistent mental health care for at least 1 year before they achieve stabilization.
Right. And that's stabilization. That's not even thriving after that.
Exactly. And so when we talk about it as it relates to COVID, as much as we would like to say, well, indeed, let's get out there first line defense with mental health professionals and help our homeless, we could do that. but we know the impact is going to be greater when we can get them someplace safe, get them clothed, get them fed, get them a job, just those basic needs. And then in conjunction with that, we can work on mental health. Right now, we just have to work on safety.
Right. There's so many points you've driven home just in that spiel. Just knowing consistent and caring. And that word stood out to me as you were speaking, Joe, because in the first part of this, we were on that fear zone. Like, let me grab all the toilet paper, let me grab all the food. We weren't worrying about our neighbor now at all.
No. No. Mm-hmm.
It's really uplifting to know, like, what we are going through is beyond ourselves.
Yeah.
You know? Can you speak more about that in terms of moving from fear to an elevated space of community?
Yeah. Okay. So, we're hardwired to do a lot of things. We have our reptilian brain. And when we feel like we are being attacked, we are hardwired to respond in defense. And so you found people defending their space, their selves, their bodies, their home, their family. And the first thing we did is we ran to the grocery stores and we bought any and everything that we could buy. We bought stuff that we don't even eat. We were buying sardines. Who eats sardines? Buying everything, right? Ritz crackers and sardines. We bought Spam. People were buying organic vegetables, and they would never buy an organic vegetable.
Never made an organic vegetable a day.
Yes, and buying any and everything because we were in that reptilian space where I need to protect myself. It was all about me, and what was driving it was fear. When you're dealing with something that you do not know, it naturally creates some level of fear. This was a pandemic, so the fear was high. And the natural response was to protect myself. We took toilet paper. People filled up their gas tanks. Masks were gone before anybody even recommended that we should get a mask. Rubber gloves, hard to find. You couldn't find Lysol or Clorox or anything else in the stores. And we went through this era of people complaining frequently. It was nonstop complaining. I don't know why they're doing this. This makes no sense. None of this really had much to do with anybody else. It had everything to do with self-preservation. And then we kind of came out of that and we moved into what we call the learning zone. And so although we were still concerned about ourselves, that level of it started to come down. And it came to a point where we started asking the question, what can I control? And interestingly enough, it is the first thing that I talk to my clients about. I understand we're in this situation. Can we look at what you can control and what you cannot control? Because focusing on what you cannot control only makes you more anxious. You cannot get an end result out of trying to control something that you cannot control. So we finally moved into the learning zone. We started to learn more information about the virus. We stopped passing misinformation. We started vetting it more. And this was really key. We began identifying our own emotions. Yeah. We started going, I am afraid.
Mm-hmm. That's self-discovery.
Yeah, very much so self-discovery. And for so long, in the beginning, it wasn't even about fear. It was just about protection, although it was driven by fear.
Yes.
In the next zone, which is the learning zone, it's an awareness that I'm afraid. And then understanding, why am I afraid? And once you understand that, you get to ask the next question, well, how can I be safe? Wow. And people realize, well, I can wash my hands. And I do wash my hands a lot. I really don't need hand sanitizer if I'm sheltering at home. Soap and water is sufficient.
Right.
Wow, we really do have enough toilet paper. We didn't run through the 4 24-roll packs I bought in 2 days. We have enough. You start realizing that you are aware that you can distance yourself. You can stay 6 to 10 feet. I can get a cotton mask. I may not be able to get the N95, but I can put on a cotton mask, and that does help me. I am working from home. I can keep my family and my friends safe by working from home. So more education that we got, we began, and that's why they call it the learning zone. We began to reduce our level of fear, and we stopped being reactionary, and we began planning.
Wow. It never comes where we're not overreacting, but we are existing as peaceful and content as possible and enduring until we get to the other side.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say we're in our Wednesday. I keep saying that. I know that's not something that the news is saying, but if you look at a work week, Wednesday is hump day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You feel like, shoot, will this day ever end? I'm so tired.
Woo!
Yes. You're tired. The walls are starting to come in a little bit on us.
Yeah.
We're feeling like, how much longer? You're hearing comments about the economy starting again, and then people going, but no, is it too soon? Right? So you've got all of this starting to happen, just like you would on a normal Wednesday. But Thursday is coming. We can tell that we're starting to reach that top and we're coming down a little bit. Thursday, it's on its way. When will Thursday hit? I can't say. I'm not a scientist. But I can tell you from an emotional standpoint, if we can recognize that Wednesday does end, then we can slide easier into the growth zone.
Right. And it's funny because you say that, because last time I went to the grocery store, I know that everyone has a face mask on. I've noticed from a physicality standpoint, folks are more endearing with their body language.
Yeah.
Whereas before, honey, if you got it between me and that toilet paper, it might have been an altercation. But now it's like, okay, let me gather the things. We've been quarantined for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. I've gone through a period of accepting, moving from fear. I've learned enough. And now we're just kind of, okay, let me get the things I need. And we can also get back to caring.
Yes.
Beyond self.
That is so good that you said that. And that's the main principle of the growth zone, is that you stop looking at yourself and you begin asking the question, what can I do for somebody else?
Right.
And now we've moved into the growth zone, because I get a lot of texts and phone calls with people going, hey, just checking in on you. Are you okay?
Yeah.
And I'm myself reaching out to more people, sending little care packages to people, writing cards and notes, because it's no longer about me. I've gotten enough education and I'm comfortable enough to know that I am safe, and now I can reach out and touch somebody else. So we're no longer in this stuck zone of learning. We started easing into the growth zone. And that's where we should land and pretty much so stay. People are learning to find new ways to adapt to change. I know Zoom is just blown up.
Yeah. As we're using Zoom plugin.
Yes. And people are learning that we can do birthday parties via Zoom.
Exactly.
Yeah. And even sadly enough to say, we can even have homegoings or funerals via Zoom. So people are learning how to adapt and do things differently. People are exercising where they've never exercised before. Right. Families are talking.
Like there's this energy of understanding where we are now, but still elevating to a space where we're making things work.
Yeah.
And that is the beautiful song of all of this. And I know that, in contrast to what we're seeing and what's going on, that coming together is what I really wanted to drive in today in terms of our mental state, and how once we can get that to a safe space, thinking about the next person, making sure if they're a little bit under the bar, what can you do to bring them above bar so that they too can spread that same love, that same care, the same mental health regimen that may help them. They may not know, hey, I really do have some stairs in my house, I can get to it. Or it's okay to get up and comb my hair today.
Yes, very much so, please.
So,
connectivity is important. We are a collective society. We're collective people. We are hardwired to be together. We talk about being an introvert or an extrovert. Right. You can be an introvert. That just means you get more energy being by yourself. It doesn't mean that you don't want to be with anybody ever.
Right.
So even introverts, exactly. Introverts are seeking connectivity in some shape, form, or fashion. It's in our DNA to be with one another. It's in our DNA to be helpful to one another. And so once we get out of that reptilian brain, we do start thinking about the needs of other people. You see all of the news reports every night. They show something that communities are doing to touch the lives of somebody else. I think when we had these tornadoes just recently, I want to say it came through on Sunday night.
Yes.
Well, people forgot all about COVID. And they were out there helping their neighbors, touching their neighbors. I mean, this man risked it all to run into a house and get a woman and her daughter. And he said this, I knew if I didn't go in and get them, they were going to die. Wow. The house would collapse on them. And they're standing out there. They don't know each other. And they're hugging.
Yes.
And you see, human nature will surpass COVID if we let it.
Yes. If you let it.
Say it again. You said that.
If you let it.
Yes, if you let it. There you go. Yeah. And so we will find a way to connect. You'll connect with the checker at the grocery store and you'll say something encouraging and loving. You will wave out of your window at the person who's delivering your box and tell them thank you. You'll pick up the phone and call someone you've not talked to in a while just to see if they are okay. You'll prepare a meal and take it to your neighbor that you know is elderly and can't get out much. You will find that it's easier to connect with somebody than you think. We don't have to have some organized way to do it. And when we do something for somebody else, it's actually one of the greatest mental health boosters you could give to yourself.
Wow, for sure. Thank you, Joe, for spending time with us today. We're going to take it home. Any last encouraging words? You really just gave us encouraging words, but that you want to share before we wrap up today. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, I guess the main thing is to be self-aware. Be honest with yourself, know who you are and know where you are. If you need help, and help doesn't always have to be a mental health professional. Help can be your spouse, your child, your sibling, your parent, your friend, a coworker. If you're struggling, talk to someone about it. It's amazing what just talking can do.
Yes.
Journaling is really powerful. If you don't have anyone that you feel like you can share with, write it down. Guys, this is history. This is history, like it or not. They will be talking about COVID-19 in our history books. You will have children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who will say, were you alive then? And you'll be able to pull out your journal and share your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, what was going on at that time, because you took time to journal it. It's a great task for your kids, too. Have them journal. They can even draw pictures about what they're feeling and what they're thinking. They're little humans, so they're dealing with this just like we are.
Yeah.
So, don't be afraid to reach out, get help, and to have self-compassion. Don't be hard on yourself. Recognize you're human, and you're going to have great days, and you're going to have not so great days. That's okay. Tomorrow is right around the corner.
Awesome. You have blessed us so much today. You have dropped so many gems, and just your empathy and compassion is unmatched. And I just, from my heart and the community, thank you for chatting with us today. Undoubtedly, we need to have some uplifting words and just know how to deal day to day and come out of this elevated,
Yeah.
So guys, check her out.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed this.
Thank you. If you're looking for DeAna Jo Vivian, you can check out her website is below in the video description. She is there, 180 Counseling Practice. And again, thank you all for joining. We had a wonderful fireside chat today, and don't forget to tune in. We're going to keep it rolling.